Most teachers carry a whistle. She carried scars no one could see, until the river tested everything she had once sworn to forget. Lorna Wells didn't talk much in the faculty lounge at Dorchester Middle School. She showed up early every morning, wore simple clothes that never drew attention, and ran the tightest gym class in Cambridge. Every kid knew the rules. You didn't slack off in Miss Wells' class, not because she yelled, she rarely raised her voice, but because her eyes said she expected better. The other teachers called her a disciplined person. The kids said she was kind of cool but serious. At 42, she moved like someone half her age, shoulders square, steps light, reactions fast. But no one asked why she always chose the window seat in faculty meetings, or why she scanned exits instinctively when entering any room. No one asked why she kept a belt cutter and tourniquet in her personal gym bag, tucked beneath the standard first aid supplies. They didn't question why she could tie knots that most sailors couldn't manage, or why she knew exactly how long someone could hold their breath underwater. The other teachers had their theories. Sarah from third grade thought she was probably a former college athlete, maybe swimming or track. Mike from the science department figured she was ex-military, but never pressed. Principal Gaines had hired her 3 years ago based on her teaching credentials and references, but those references came from a private training facility in Colorado that specialized in outdoor education. Clean background check, excellent recommendations, no red flags. What they didn't know was that the Colorado facility was a front for specialized military contractor training. And before that, Staff Sergeant Lorna Wells had spent 14 years in the U.S. Air Force, teaching elite military personnel survival, evasion, and rescue techniques when everything went wrong. She had graduated from the Air Force Academy in 2000, just months before September 11th changed everything. While her classmates went to pilot training or intelligence work, she volunteered for specialized survival training programs. She excelled at teaching others how to survive in extreme conditions and extract personnel from dangerous situations. For 14 years, she had run training exercises in the mountains of Colorado, the swamps of Florida, and the deserts of Nevada. She taught special operations forces how to escape restraints. She showed elite units how to signal for rescue with improvised materials. She trained military personnel to survive behind enemy lines for weeks with minimal equipment. But she had also seen things, real things, drowned bodies pulled from jungle rivers during a training accident that went wrong, silent crashes in the mountains where help never came fast enough, hands shaking around flares that never fired when they needed to most. She had watched good people die because equipment failed, weather turned, or because someone made a mistake. She had saved people. 15 confirmed rescues and training accidents and 2 real-world extractions during classified operations. And she had lost others. 3 trainees over the years, despite everything she taught them, despite everything she tried to do. The nightmares had started in 2016. The hypervigilance got worse. The VA doctors called it operational stress, recommended counseling, medication. She took early retirement in 2018 at 42, with full benefits and a chest full of ribbons most people would never see. And now she just wanted quiet. The rain had started at 5 that Monday morning, relentless and cold. Weather reports had been tracking the storm system for 3 days, but morning commuters were still caught off guard by its intensity. Streets throughout Cambridge overflowed with runoff, storm drains backed up, and the usually calm Charles River had started to swell beyond its banks. The National Weather Service had issued a flood watch for the entire metropolitan area. More precipitation was forecast through the afternoon. Lorna was chaperoning the weekly Monday morning bus route, a volunteer rotation among teachers that most tried to avoid. The extra duty meant arriving at school by 6:30 a.m. to ride the early route, but she didn't mind. It gave her something to do with the restless energy that always hit her on Monday mornings. Just another routine ride to school, 10 kids on board, ages 11 to 14, all in the standard Dorchester Middle School uniform, navy blue polo shirts, khaki pants, backpacks heavy with textbooks, wet shoes squeaking against the bus floor, a few grumbling about the math test scheduled for third period, others pressed against fogged windows, drawing shapes in the condensation. Jessica, a seventh grader, was complaining about her science project. Tommy, an eighth grader, was showing off his new phone to anyone who would look. Maria, quiet and shy, sat near the front reading a book about horses. Normal kids, normal morning, normal complaints. The driver, Mr. Callahan, was experienced but cautious. He had been driving school routes for 15 years without incident, a record he was proud of. His wife always teased him about driving like he was carrying precious cargo, and he always replied that he was. This morning, he had adjusted his route slightly to avoid the worst of the flooding on Memorial Drive. At 7:38 a.m., as they crossed the narrow Riverside Bridge, a structure built in 1962 that city planners had been discussing replacing for years, visibility was poor. The rain hammered the windshield faster than the wipers could clear it. Mr. Callahan had slowed to 15 miles per hour, well below the posted limit. The delivery van came from the opposite direction, moving too fast for conditions. Later, investigators would determine the driver had been rushing to make his Monday morning deliveries before the storm got worse. He hit a patch of standing water that had collected in the bridge's ancient drainage system. The van skidded across the wet divider, fishtailed, and slammed into the side of the bus with a sound like thunder. Steel screamed against steel. Tires lost grip on the slick asphalt. The bus slid sideways through the broken railing. They were airborne for half a second. Then came the impact. Cold river water exploded through cracked windows as the bus hit the surface nose down and tilted rapidly to the right. In seconds, it began to submerge. The current was stronger than anyone had expected, swollen from the morning's rain and moving fast. Inside the bus, panic, screams, flailing limbs, children struggling to get out of their seats. Mr. Callahan had hit his head against the steering wheel and wasn't moving. Water was rising fast, ankle level, then knee, then shoulder, then neck. That's when Lorna moved. She was out of her seat before anyone else understood what was happening. Her hands moved without hesitation, muscle memory taking over. She grabbed the emergency window hammer, one she had quietly replaced herself after noticing it was missing 2 weeks prior during a routine safety check. The back right window was already underwater. She shifted to the left side where air still remained. Crack. Glass gave way. Water surged harder through the opening, but it created an exit. "Everyone eyes on me," she barked. It was the voice of a soldier, not a teacher. "Stay calm. We move together. No one goes until I say go." Her brain ran calculations. Oxygen time remaining, current speed, cold shock response in children. She helped the first two kids through the window opening. "Kick hard when you hit the water. Swim toward the bank. Go now." One by one, she guided children through the exit, using techniques she had learned in the military to keep them calm and moving efficiently. Two couldn't swim well. She helped them float while she guided them toward shore. Another was in full panic mode, screaming, hyperventilating, thrashing. She pressed her forehead to his. "You're with me. Breathe like this. In and out." Now we move together. Each child she rescued, she left on the muddy embankment with clear instructions. "Crawl up the bank. Stay low. Wait right here. Don't move until help comes." 4 children, 5, 6, 7, 8. By the time she went back for the 9th, the bus was almost fully submerged. Her clothing soaked through, fingers numb from the cold water, vision blurred. But she kept going. The current was getting stronger. The bus was shifting with each wave. She got the last child out, then went back for the driver. Mr. Callahan was unconscious but breathing. She checked his pulse, cleared his airway, and used a textbook military carry to get him through the window and to shore. By the time she dragged him onto the bank, she could barely feel her hands. But all 11 people were alive. By the time EMS arrived, the scene was surreal. 10 soaked children wrapped in emergency blankets that Lorna had kept in her gym bag. One semi-conscious bus driver stabilized in a head-tilt recovery position, and a soaked, shaking Lorna sitting quietly on the grass, still wearing her waterlogged sneakers. The first responders had expected chaos. Instead, they found organization. The children were arranged in a line on the embankment, each wrapped in a blanket, none wandering or panicking. The most seriously injured, a boy with a suspected concussion, had been placed in the recovery position with his airway cleared. Another student with a badly sprained ankle had been given an improvised splint made from a wooden ruler and torn fabric. "Who did this?" the first paramedic asked a sobbing sixth grader named Emma, who was clutching a bloody tissue to her nose. "Ms. Wells," she said through chattering teeth. "She just knew what to do. She saved everyone. She wouldn't let anyone die." The paramedics tried to give her oxygen. She declined, pointing to the children instead. They tried to take her to the hospital for observation. She stood on her own and walked to the ambulance to check on her students instead, calling each by name, asking about their injuries, reassuring parents who were beginning to arrive. News crews arrived within an hour. The school board sent officials. The mayor's office called. Channel 5 wanted an exclusive interview. Everyone wanted a statement from the hero teacher who had saved 11 lives. She gave none. Local reporter Amanda Chen approached with a camera crew. "Ms. Wells, can you tell us how you managed to save all these children? What was going through your mind?" Lorna looked at the camera, then at the reporter, then simply walked away. "Ma'am, the community wants to know their children are safe," Lorna said without turning around. "They are. That's all that matters." Only the assistant fire chief caught the details. The way she had used her shoelace as an improvised sling for one student's injured arm, how the knots were textbook military rescue ties, the systematic way she had organized the children on the bank, the fact that she had managed to account for every person before the bus fully submerged. He approached quietly while she sat in the back of an ambulance, finally accepting a blanket and refusing a third offer of medical attention. "Air Force?" he asked. She met his eyes, nodded once. "Survival training?" "Yes, sir." "How long?" 14 years. Retired in 2018. He extended his hand. "Chief Martinez, 23 years Navy. Thank you for your service, and for today." She shook it briefly. "Just doing what needed to be done." Most people wouldn't have known what needed to be done. Those kids are alive because of your training. Those kids are alive because they listened when it mattered. Then she walked away, leaving wet footprints on the asphalt. Lorna returned to work 2 days later. Gym class resumed as scheduled. No interviews, no medals, no ceremonies. Just business as usual. But things had changed in small ways. The principal had quietly upgraded the emergency equipment in every classroom. The school board had fast-tracked funding for water safety training. Parents who had never spoken to her before now nodded respectfully in the hallways. The children who had been on the bus were different too. They sat up straighter in her class. They paid attention when she demonstrated proper rescue techniques. When she taught them how to tie knots during the outdoor education unit, they asked questions about why certain knots were stronger than others. When she explained swimming techniques, they practiced harder. Jessica, the 7th grader who had complained about her science project that morning, now volunteered to help set up equipment. Tommy, the 8th grader with the new phone, asked if she could teach him first aid. Maria, the quiet girl who read books about horses, started staying after class to ask about emergency preparedness. "Ms. Wells," Maria said one afternoon, "how did you know what to do? In the water, I mean." Lorna finished stacking the gymnastics mats before answering. "Training, practice, and paying attention to what needs to be done." "Could you teach us?" "I already am." And she was. Not just gym class, but life skills. How to stay calm under pressure. how to help others when they're scared, how to assess a situation and take action, how to be strong when strength is needed. The other teachers noticed the change too. During fire drills, her students moved with precision. During lockdown practice, they were calm and focused. When a sixth grader fell off the monkey bars and broke his arm, three of her students immediately formed a protective circle while another ran for help, without being told. In the staff lounge, they don't ask where she came from or what she did before teaching, but they make sure there's always hot coffee waiting when she arrives each morning. They ask her opinion on emergency procedures. They invite her to safety committee meetings. And late at night, when the building is empty and she's finishing her lesson plans, sometimes she allows herself to think about the 15 people she saved during her military service, the three she couldn't, the choice she made to walk away from that life and try to find peace in something quieter. She had wanted quiet, but she had learned that some kinds of quiet came from knowing that others were safe, that the skills she had learned in the military didn't have to be left behind. They could be transformed into something gentler, but just as important. Because now they know. Some people teach for a living, others once taught people how to survive, and some, like Staff Sergeant Lorna Wells, still do both. Every day, teachers across America carry more than lesson plans. They carry experiences that shape them and skills that save lives. Some are former paramedics, others retired firefighters. Many are veterans who learn that true strength isn't about the battles you fought, but the people you choose to serve. These heroes don't always wear uniforms. Sometimes they wear polo shirts and teach kids how to tie their shoes. At Echo Bravo, we believe their stories deserve to be told. If Lorna's story moved you, consider subscribing to help us continue sharing these stories of quiet courage.